let's be honest, this wouldn't be the weirdest thing James Gunn has done. It might not even be the weirdest thing in this movie. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. I've already reviewed him, so today is a showcase of David Corenswet's Superman head swaps. Before I get started, don't worry, I'm not going to have any spoilers for the new movie. That said, I did do a poll on the community tab asking if you guys would be interested in me doing a movie review, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that, because it's definitely coming. Now on to the main event, head swaps. First up, and here's our various and sundry Action Comics 1000s. It's the first McFarlane Toys Superman head and still one of the best. If you wanted a more detailed, maybe even New 52 inspired costume, I think this combination works pretty well. It really just boils down to how you feel about the logo. And speaking of logos, this one has an oversized one. Combined with the longer cape and darker blue, it kind of puts me in mind of what David Corenswet might look like in the Dean Cain costume. And you know what? For an early 90s TV costume, it was pretty good. If you like David's head on the Action Comics 1000 body, here's one with a cloth goods cape and a slightly more manageable logo. I personally think it's an improvement on the original release, though if we're honest, a lot of things about this body are outdated. Rounding out the Action Comics 1000 trio is the Atomic Skull 2-pack. True, we're back to the plastic cape and oversized logo, but we get a much brighter blue, which I more closely associate with Superman. As long as we're talking about this body, though, I thought I'd bring out Bizarro. Were we ever to get a proper Bizarro in this universe, I think it would probably look something a bit like this. The head scale is great with this body, though it occurs to me that a backwards version of this S would just be a Z. Bizarro is Zod confirmed! Other way, and what I will say is if you like the Corenswet head on this body, it's a great lighter option. Between the logo and skin tones, you'd have to make lots of modifications, but if you like what you see, I'm happy to help. And you know what? What the heck? As long as I'm here, let's take a look at the Rebirth Bizarro too. I much prefer the hair on the classic Bizarro, but I think I like the face better. A bit less Bizarro and a bit more Frankenstein's monster, but I think with this character it works. If you're enjoying this video so far, do me a favor and give it a like. And if you want to support my channel so I can make even more content, link to my coffee in the description below. Next up is DC Classic and Page Punchers. This is the body that most customizers use for Brandon Routh Superman, Nicolas Cage Superman, and even Christopher Reeve. With the exception of the oversized hands, I totally get why. And if you want to put Corenswet in a more classic costume, I think it's a good way to go. Contrary-wise, and this head is realistic enough that if you wanted to put it on this body as a live-action Superman, I think it would work. Yes, it's a bit on the small side, but that kind of big beaming smile is the sort of alternate head I wish McFarlane would have included with Corenswet. Now, I prefer my Superman a bit on the brighter side, but I can't deny that that darker color scheme of the original Page Punchers is a bit more cinematic, and even though it's the same body, I just had to show you. Contrary-wise though, and I don't think this looks quite as good. But hey, you can be the judge of that for yourself. Next up, and here we have Hush and the Rebirth 2-pack. The Hush head is way too stylized for a live-action insert, but if you wanted to use this as a springboard for a more comics-accurate version of New 52, I think you'd be in business. The main problem would be figuring out what to do about the trunks and belt. On the contrary, the Hush body is probably too stylish and comic booky for the David Corenswet head. Pulling back, and again, it's nice to see him in those classic colors, but this is clearly a comic book body and not a realistic one. Regardless, and I just had to see what the Action Comics #1 head would look like on the Corenswet body. I'm not even gonna bother to show you the other way around on this one, but as what I think of as the best McFarlane Superman head, I'm pretty happy. On that note, and this is a good reminder that the Rebirth head is just a repainted version of Action Comics 1000, and while the skin tones are a better match, the pegs are not. Additionally, and while I do maintain this body is inappropriate for the David Corenswet head, this configuration does however still give us our first look at a trunksless comic book Superman. For something a bit brighter though, and therefore more in line with the new movie, may I suggest the Ultraman 2-pack version. As long as we're talking about a trunks-free Superman though, and next up is New 52. Comic-wise, and this is the closest to what the movie costume was going for. The trunks in particular were only decided on the night before shooting. If you like the Page Puncher's body, this is the same thing but with the muscles a bit more subdued, so I think it actually works really well. But maybe just do something about that logo. On the flip side, if you want something closer to the comic book New 52, 2, this is the way to go. Unlike the comic figure we got, this has all the different panel lines and seams. If you wanted to do a trunk swap, you could, just keep in mind that the comic version doesn't have any of the texture. Even so, it's a nice peek into what the movie costume would have looked like without trunks, and to somebody who in general is pro trunks, I think this costume would have been better without them. For the ultimate McFarlane Man of Steel body, however, and here we have all the variations of Earth 2. I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that none of you are really interested in old prune face here. Still, I want to do my due diligence and show you what it would look like. I am much more interested in the Corenswet head on the Crisis body. Little overly bulky, but still the closest we've seen so far to just a guy in a spandex suit, and to my eye anyway, he really sells it. When the new movie was announced, a lot of fan art imagined what Corenswet would look like in the classic Fleischer suit. Seeing this combination, and I really wish they had gone that route. Having seen the movie, I've warmed up to the new suit, but again, this would have been really cool. Other way around, and while this head might be a bit too cartoony, that narrower face does remind me of David. In fact, at a quick glance, you might not even know I swapped the heads. With the symbol being a modified version of Kingdom Come, it stands to reason that he looks good on the Kingdom Come body. Again, the proportions might be a bit extreme, but it does still give you the idea of what a movie version could be. Now, of course, since a live-action Kingdom Come movie would probably just take its cues from this costume, here's what that looks like. Throw on some black accents, and that would work for me. All that aside, and the one that I'm the most excited for is the Silver Age. The blues and reds here are actually much closer to what they look like in the movie. And don't worry, I have not forgotten about my logo swap video. I'm just a little behind is all. Alternately, and I think this looks pretty good. Overall, Action Comics #1 might be my favorite McFarlane Superman head, but this one comes a close second and feels more like the Superman of the comics that I grew up with. Lastly, and we've got to close with the comparisons I know a lot of you would like to see most, Christopher Reeve and Henry Cavill. David's performance felt like a combination of Christopher Reeve and Tom Welling, with a little bit of his own pizzazz thrown in. Seeing him in the iconic suit really drives that point home. I get that in a modern blockbuster we'd never get a costume like this again, but I'd be down for it. Conversely, the combination of Christopher's head on Corenswet's body really encapsulates the expression "the clothes make the man," or Superman in this case. Quintessential as Christopher is, I feel like if you put him in this costume and posted those pictures online, people still would have complained. On the other hand, it's a nice glimpse into what a Kingdom Come Christopher Reeve Superman could have been. No, for a modern blockbuster, something more akin to the Man of Steel costume would be more appropriate, and I think Corenswet could have rocked it. Brighten the colors, throw on some trunks, and tone down the harsher edges of the muscle suit, and I think you'd have a happy medium. Don't believe me? Take a look at this and tell me what you think in the comments. On the other hand, Henry in a brighter costume looks pretty good too. Obviously, and tragically, Christopher Reeve is no longer with us, but if in a few years they wanted to make a Kingdom Come movie with Cavill, that would be pretty cool. Now, I'm sure that a bunch of you would like to see some Clark Kent options, and honestly, so would I. Unfortunately, I usually use the question for that, and I actually can't find him. With that in mind, keep your eyes peeled for my upcoming Lex Luthor video. I'll be doing lots of swaps with that one, and hopefully I'll find my figure of the question by then. For now, which combination was your favorite, and were there any I didn't do that you wish I had? Sound off in the comments below, and stay tuned for my movie review and cinematic Superman verses. For more Superman videos while you wait, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice, have fun, and look up.